Okay, how you doing, guys? I just settled into my chair and yeah, don't know what I'm doing today. Today's Monday, we're the 25th, and it is exactly 23 minutes past 5, and I'm delighted to be here. It's our first kind of show. We've done a lot of tests and stuff like that, and so, I want to thank a lot of people, but I'll eventually do that. So I said, my name is Jimmy Saunders, and thank you very much for tuning in. I decided to do a series of podcasts, maybe 15, maybe more, maybe it could be a lot more, because I'm eventually going to move out, and so there'll be kind of a different background, but like I just showed you there, behind the scenes, that's all the music stuff and things like that, and on right beside me there is a lot of stuff, computer, two computers mashed together, two speakers, decks and everything. I haven't been very well in the last 2 years, and put down to coronavirus. I don't know, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on in a minute. And I've been very, very ill, really, in the last 2 years. For the first time in my life, I'm not sure if I was depressed, because I lost my brother in 2019, and my mum in 2022, and another brother in 2023, and a lot of things just kind of grabbed up on me, but everything is cool, What is today's podcast about? I don't know, right? It's just one of the days where we can interact with my podcast. This is how it's going to work. So everything on here is the truth. Every single thing on here is the truth, nothing less. If I pardon me, if I have a guest on here in a couple of weeks, it has to be the truth. No bullshit. And so the topics that we're going to be talking about is what I did. What a lot of people ask me to talk about is about how I wrote my book. So how I wrote my book is going to be a very interesting one. My book, From the Outside In. And I sold just under 4,000 copies in Kilkenny County alone, that was. And that was all about my mum. And I think that was one of the reasons why I was ill as well, because, I was missing mum at a certain time. And, it's just one of those things when everything jumps on you. So I was able to deal with it, like always. I'm able to deal with things, and I'm not an expert at it, but I'm pretty good at it, because I've seen a lot, been through a lot, done a lot. So you take me as you find me. Another thing as well that people ask me to talk about, because I went around asking people, if I do a podcast, what would you like me to talk about? And a lot of people would love me to talk about my old DJ years. Now, I've only really retired from DJing about 3-4 years ago. And it was a kind of swift retirement where I didn't kind of announce it. I just faded out. And so, a lot of people wanted me to talk about music production and creating music. And then my records were played in some of the biggest clubs in the world. So, it's a good claim to fame. And it's a wonderful thing to say that you were able to create music, and I'll be putting my music on here. So when we do a show for that, which will be very soon, we'll talk about it. A lot of people wanted me to talk about how you make money from music. Unfortunately, it's really, really hard today. It's very hard. So that's going to be a topic that is definitely jumping in with that. And what it was like for me. I mean, I started creating music in 2007, so, I went to an absolute excellent college in London, Point Blank College, and I did the Point Blank College online, so it was great. And Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And then other people are asking me to talk about grievances, like not grievances, grief, going through grief, or when people die. So, I kind of did a survey for 3 weeks, and I was going around coffee shops and just saying to people, what would you like to hear if you were to hear something online as a discussion? So, there's so much more, so much more. And I think one of the biggest things is not because I was in it. I can tell you my story from a certain angle, but I think mental health is a big story. Guys, forgive me. I've been up since 7 o'clock this morning. I had a meeting with somebody at 10:30, quarter to 11. Had to pick my brother up. He was coming back from Thailand and Vietnam, and he was in the Arab Emirates, and so I had to pick him up the bus from the airport, and then take my sister to her job, and then just getting everything correct, eating when I got in, and so I'm extremely tired, but I've decided to do this now. One of the only shows that you'll ever find where somebody has actually mastered the vocals from the mic. This mic is an extremely expensive mic. You see it there, like it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pretty expensive mic, but it's a very good mic, right? But I think as well, when you're talking, and so you can actually, if it's good enough, that's fine. If you want a little bit of oomph out of it, I decided to master the voice. So it comes really out into your speakers, and I can master a certain size and things like that. Yes, I have plasters on my fingers, because I have a thing where my fingers, right, they lose, the skin goes extremely thin, and I bleed, and I've got diabetes now, so I got to be careful, right? These are extremely sore. But they cool down when you put the plasters on them. Well, I've got a list of things here, so I'm reading off my list. Okay, so we've spoken about the doing the book, and we've spoken about I'm putting these on so I can actually hear myself on here, guys. Yeah, it's testing 1, 2, 3, and it sounds really nice. So yeah, doing the book, what it was like for me doing the book, doing my music, DJing. People want to know what it was like getting involved in production. That's very high. So believe it or not, on the list I've got here, what was it like to do production, and what tips can you give, and doing your book. So they're the real highest ones there. And also grievances and mental health. Now, mental health is close to the bottom, right? In the last 2 weeks, I figured it out. It was getting closer to the top. It became more and more what people wanted to hear. So, my experience being involved in mental health, not involved, but as a patient, and how it gripped me. So I'm not, and nobody is, right? That's not what mental health is. Mental health is when your mind plays tricks on you and grips you. It's just like that. And you have no control. And then the worst thing is that you can't seem to go to anybody directly about it. I've spoken to people in the last 2 weeks that are crippled with anxiety attacks, and I, for one, that's how I started when I came out of hospital after a blood clot. And I started getting panic attacks in the hospital because they're shutting the door and they're closing us in all the time. And I just signed myself out. They were really pissed off. And you will hear some verbal bad language, guys. It is how I am, and it's not to show off or anything like that. I just tend to swear. But going back to the hospital, that's what happened to me, and I've been there. I've seen crazy things in my life, and mental health, I believe it affects all of us, and sometimes we don't know it. Right? That's the weird part about mental health. So I do hope with all my heart that if anybody's watching this with certain problems of mental health, I will list down what is on my tariff, what happened to me. For instance, panic attacks. They just came all of a sudden, panic attacks. And I've never really gone through depression. I've come across hard feelings to deal with 3 weeks ago. So I was out in the town one morning, decided to go to my mum's grave, and that was it. Decided to have a talk with my mother. And then I ended up talking with the whole bloody family that's buried out there. So, we'll get into that. As somebody says, well, what's it like to grieve? Because I'm expecting, I've had this. I've had people come up to me and say, can you do a little thing about what it's like to grieve, how you dealt with it? Because you seem to have dealt with things that I've never come across. 3 family members dying in 3 years. A lot of people said that to me. So I'm gonna go to the run up to that, and that's also got to do with mental health, right? And if anybody out there, guys, wants to interact on this, just all you gotta do is put your comment down. It might be bad, it might be hard, it might be sad, it might be harsh. Just do it. Yeah, if you're honest, and that's it. That's how we roll here. It's the Jimmy Saunders show, and I call it now the Jimmy Saunders experience. All right, because if Joe Rogan can have an experience or anybody else, then I've got an experience, and I've got a hell of an experience. Other people asked me yesterday. This is something that a friend of mine's son asked me about yesterday to do a topic on. And the topic, just before I go into that, I'm going to have a cigarette, all right? We got vent. So we're not going to go on fire. We're not going to start smoldering the room. We're not going to go... It's a cigarette, right? Anybody want to light up? Anybody want one? There you go, guys. Just put that there. That's it. Well done. Jesus. You took a few of them there. So there's just some of the subjects, and I really hope that this kind of show, a guy that used to be on radio stations and interviewed on radio stations and magazines and newspapers and things like that, I hope that with my experience of all the crap in my life that I've seen and went through, when you have a very good life, a lot of people will tell you this, when you have a very good life, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're enjoying it. Right? Always remember that. All right? Because it's one of those things. You could be going through a hard time, a very difficult time with something, and I think this mic is showing that it's about 10 times bigger than I am. So I'm just going to move this up, move this down. All right. We all right? No, we're not. That's it. So, so there are the things about different sides of people's lives, and I hope that this kind of generates in the next 2 to 3 years. If I decide to do a subject or a show, whatever you want to call it, and there's a subject that you really want me to discuss, and just remember, I can't discuss anything unless I've gone through it, Let's have an old cigarette. I hope everybody's out there is joining me, and if not, get on your little pipes or whatever, and if not, just breathe. That's how I want to go. That's how I want to do it. Yes, and that's a lot of people might say, well, Jesus Christ, man, you're smoking cigarettes on your show. What else are we going to call it? Program, show? I don't know. We'll go along and maybe, even if there's all I want as well, guys, is everyone to subscribe, right? Because not to miss the show. And the one thing I hate about YouTube or any place like that is when people are asking you to subscribe. I'm not gonna fucking subscribe to certain things, but things that could be important to you, or for instance, that you want another show to. You're all right, mate. You want another show to continue and do a part 2 or something. That's all down to you guys. I want everybody that's listening to what I'm saying to be interactive and really get in. You know, I can't answer anybody's real problems. I can only give from my opinion, and everything that I speak about, I've been through. So, oh, there was another one here. Let me just check this. Yeah. So I can only go through I can only talk about what I've been through, my experiences in that. My last one here, this is the last one I've got here. Your previous show, these are people that wrote down all these, you know, and so I said I'd take them so I wouldn't recognize who wrote them. That I'd take them back home or read them in the car, and so people wouldn't feel bad. Oh, you wanted this or... But somebody put here, your radio show from the 90s was absolutely splendid. Pity was taken down. Could you please do a podcast about the 80s rave scene and 90s rave scene? I can't talk much about the 80s, but I can definitely talk about the 90s. Because the 80s, I was like 15, 16, 17, 18. So nobody's given your birthdays or whatever. So I can't say what experience you have, but I can definitely guys, talk about the late 80s, early 90s. I was in Australia for a year, and that's how I got into the rave scene. And I was only 21, 22. So I went out and chanced my arm. I worked at the same time. So I was working and raving, and then working, raving, and then starting off DJing. Working, raving, starting off DJing, threw my decks out the fucking window out in London, very good decks, because I couldn't mix them in right. So then I went on and got myself my first set of 1210s, biggest fucking thing I ever put my money to. That now was bigger than any car. When I took them home, it was better than any car I still had today. Bar my Audi TT, but I think definitely when I bought my first set of 1210s, or 12, I think they were 1200s, and so I started doing clubs, and then a year later I threw them out the fucking window because the mix wasn't right. So I had to go back out and buy another set of 1210s, threw them out the window, alright, and my 1210s are underneath this table here. I've had them for right now up to date about 17 years. And that's when DJs were proper DJs, alright? Not this malarkey of fucking... I never liked CDJs. I never liked them. I was vinyl. And then I started making vinyl and creating the music, making the music. And then you go up and some of the DJs that are behind you or in front of you would play the tracks, so you could see what the tracks... the reaction of the crowd was like. So that's another story, so we'll go into that. So on my podcast, what I'll do is when I'm doing a podcast about writing, I'll do a structure kind of thing as I'm going down, and so I have a screen here and it'll let me know what's coming up next. All right, I have a nice computer screen here. It's right there. Can you see it? No, you can't. So all my shows will be pretty structured. Right, after this cigarette, I'm gonna go. Let's see if there's anything else. Everything's on paper at the moment, but from the near future, it will be on It will be on computer. I'd like to say hello as well to brother Brian Harvey from E17. Brian has gone through. I met Brian in 1996, 97 in Harrods. That could be another show as well. And met him again, and then Brian got kicked out of E17, and in my opinion, by no fault of his own. And he's spent the last couple of years in naming and shaming people, and he's done it right. He's hit nerves, he's hit very bad times. And so I'd like to wish Brian a huge hello from the Jimmy Saunders experience. Yeah, there's a lot of things in this world that it's amazing you're on top. I know what it's like to be on top and to be on top of your game, and then you're going into a valley full of jealousy and ignorant people and absolutely trash heads, cunts, right? And they have no idea that you could smash them at any 1 second. One of my mates in England last night wants me to do a topic on hooliganism. And follow was like following West Ham. And now because I followed West Ham doesn't mean I was a hooligan. But there's many stories from the terraces. And I think that's what we'll do, stories from the terraces, because, I've seen more than you can imagine. In fact, I've seen so much in this life, it's hard to believe I am still here. I am 56 years of age now, I'm not afraid to say it. And I've done a world tour of life. There is no doubt about it. And I hope that you're going to enjoy the stories. They're really true. They're 100%. And actually, somebody wrote down guitar plus vocals, and I think that I know this person. I know who did this. And I have a funny feeling they did it for me to also talk about my days in bands. So I don't know. I'll actually get in touch with them tonight. I used to play guitar. I still play guitar. I play guitar on some of my sounds, which I'll let you guys hear. And I hope that you enjoy them. We don't want them on too long, just in case you don't enjoy them, So this is nearly done, guys, nearly done. So we're gonna have like a really good little show. It's gonna be great. Everybody can come along and give your opinion on things. I don't want any trash heads, and we most certainly don't want any idiots. But if there's an idiot out there that wants to say something, then say it. We'll tackle it. So that's what we're all about. There's nothing much else to talk about today. It's just my introduction, so right? This is my introduction on the Jimmy Saunders experience. And what is the Jimmy Saunders experience? And if I was probably interviewed on a radio station and somebody said, what is the Jimmy Saunders experience? Well, the Jimmy Saunders experience is the truth that comes from there, right? Not somebody else's bullshit, right? And it goes from there to there to there and there, and then it's absolutely mustard. Right? Now, mustard in the English language means brilliant. Mustard in my language, because I hate mustard, is what it is. I'm getting messages there from one bassline recording, and I have an itchy ankle. So, let's keep it kind of respectable. I used to be on the radio when I was a kid, 17 years of age, and I got Presenter of the Year award. and lots of experience from that. Experience from being on the BBC, One Extra, BBC Radio 4, Radio France, oh Jesus, Pulse FM. I used to DJ on Pulse FM in London, and I was DJing all over the world, but I did so many radio stations between France, one in Italy, which was fucking amazing, one in Spain, couldn't understand the presenter, and Cool FM. I had a lot of my tracks played on Cool FM, Cool FM London, and London Townhouse Music Radio and Ministry of Sound, and I'm very proud about what I did and what I achieved. And making those records were straight from the studio, the first begin with, and then my own recording studios and stuff like that, and taken into another level then by taking it right into the studio for mastering, and now I do all my own mastering. But I haven't done music now in the last 3 years, so 2 years, and I did a bit last year, but I'm not DJing anymore because of the illnesses, you know. That's all it is. Right, guys, we've done almost 27 minutes here, and I'm gonna cut it down. Well, let's cut it down to 30 minutes and see if we can get away with it on YouTube. So, right, I'm gonna have a couple of people in here eventually, after about 10 to 15 shots of all me talking. I think it'd be fair enough to have some guests coming in as well, and some good guests and famous guests maybe that I met along the way of the 20 years that I spent, just under 20 years in London, and that can be from anything from music, football, on the terraces one, writers, and even if I do other podcasts where somebody's coming in on a podcast on the screen, so you see the split screen and you see me talking to somebody, and we're sharing experiences. And if anybody has experiences or stories or whatever you've been through, you know, send them in, guys. Well, I'll tell you what you do right now. Just post them online and say, Jay, can I send you on an experience? I'd like you to hear it or whatever. Maybe we'll look at it, you know. We'll definitely look at something, and we'll go that way. So I think I'm looking forward to doing all of them. I mean, there's so much more that I could talk about. Whatever, if there's young people listening in their teens or early 20s, or somebody's in their 30s and they want to talk about immigration and things like that, wonderful things to talk about. Just remember one thing: the world has changed. All right, so this world now is really split in two. I'm not sure if it's good, bad, and in between. And if I was to put the good and the bad, I would put the elderly in between, because you know, anybody over 75 knows that this world is cracking up. And I think maybe on my own thing, my experience about emigration and migration, and you know, there's a big difference in immigration and migration. And okay, somebody, I'd say, just wants to know, what's the difference in immigration and migration? Well, migration is when there's a peoples, you call them peoples, and they're moving. They would decided to move. But today, it's not like the Mayflower, or it's not like the World Wars. A lot of people decide, like the Irish did. The Irish wanted to emigrate, whereas people that are coming from war-torn countries want to migrate, right? And so when there's a country in today's date decides that enough is enough about overcrowding in their country and the security issues and everything like that, that's going to be a really hot subject, you know. But we'll do it, because that's what we're going to do. All right, guys, you've got the rundown. It's Jimmy Saunders signing out, and I hope you'll get in tune with all the subjects that we're doing here. So it's going to be great, you know. Look forward in everybody's interaction with shows I'm doing. Remember, Jimmy Saunders and the Jimmy Saunders Experience. Goodbye.
Yeah.